Are you absolutely out of your mind? That's the question every single Miami Dolphins fan should be asking after reading the latest mock trade proposal that has our superstar wide receiver Tyreek Hill heading to Pittsburgh for what can only be described as absolute peanuts. When I first saw this ridiculous suggestion from Bleacher Report's Brent Sobleski, I had to read it 3 times just to make sure I wasn't having some kind of fever dream. Let me paint you the picture of what the so-called analyst thinks is fair value for one of the most electrifying players in the entire National Football League. Nick Herbig, a promising but improving outside linebacker, plus a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick in 2026. That's it. That's the entire package for a 5-time Pro Bowl selection who has redefined what it means to be a game-breaking wide receiver in this league. Now, I get it. Trade proposals are supposed to generate discussion, create buzz, maybe even ruffle some feathers. But this isn't just ruffling feathers. This is a complete and utter disrespect to everything Tyreek Hill brings to the table and what he means to this Miami Dolphins organization. We're talking about a player who just 2 seasons ago posted one of the most dominant receiving campaigns in recent memory with 1,799 yards and 13 touchdowns. This is the same man who forces defensive coordinators to lose sleep at night trying to figure out how to contain his otherworldly speed and route-running ability. The proposal becomes even more insulting when you dive into the details. Sobleski acknowledges in his own analysis that the return wouldn't be as good for Miami compared to what the Steelers would be getting. If you're admitting up front that one team is getting fleeced in your mock trade, maybe that's a sign you should go back to the drawing board. But apparently, logic took a backseat to generating clicks on this one. Let's talk about what Tyreek Hill actually brings to any offense he's part of. The man doesn't just catch passes. He warps the entire fabric of how defenses have to approach game planning. When Hill lines up on the field, safeties automatically start cheating over the top. Linebackers can't afford to bite too hard on play action because they know one misassignment could result in Hill running past them for a house call. This isn't just about statistics, though Hill's numbers speak for themselves. This is about pure, unadulterated impact on winning football games. Even in what some people are calling Hill's down year in 2024, he still managed 959 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns in just 13 games. That's right, he missed 3 games and still nearly reached 1,000 yards. When you project those numbers over a full 17-game season, you're looking at over 1,200 yards, which would rank him comfortably among the top receivers in the league. And let's not forget the context. Tua Tagovailoa missed significant time due to injury, forcing Hill to work with backup quarterbacks who couldn't fully utilize his skill set. The financial aspect of Hill's contract is certainly worth discussing, and it's probably the only semi-legitimate angle for why Miami might consider moving him. Hill carries a cap hit of $27.7 million in 2025 and a staggering $51.9 million in 2026. Those are quarterback-level numbers for a wide receiver, and in today's salary cap environment, that kind of investment requires serious consideration. However, the Dolphins also have flexibility built into the deal, with nearly $40 million in cap space that could be freed up if they designated Hill as a post-June first cut in the future. But here's where the logic of this trade proposal completely falls apart. If Miami is going to absorb that kind of financial hit and part ways with their most dynamic offensive weapon, they better be getting back assets that can help them compete immediately or build for the future. Nick Herbig, while showing promise with 8.5 sacks over 30 games, is still a relatively unknown quantity. He's 23 years old with potential, but potential doesn't win football games in the AFC East, where you're going up against Josh Allen twice a year. The Pittsburgh Steelers' angle of this trade makes perfect sense from their perspective, which should tell you everything you need to know about how lopsided this deal would be. They're coming off an aggressive offseason where they've already made significant moves to improve their roster. Adding Hill to an offense that features Russell Wilson, George Pickens, Jalen Warren, and Pat Freiermuth would create matchup nightmares for opposing defenses. Hill's speed would open up the entire field for Pittsburgh's other playmakers and give Wilson the kind of reliable target he hasn't had since the Seattle days. The Steelers have also shown they're not afraid to make big moves, having already completed a trade with Miami earlier this offseason that sent Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins in exchange for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. That deal worked out well for both teams, but it also involved much more balanced value than what's being proposed here for Hill. What really gets under my skin about this whole situation is how it undervalues not just Hill as a player, but what he represents to the Miami Dolphins franchise. This is a guy who chose to come to Miami, who bought into the vision that Coach Mike McDaniel and the organization were selling. He's been nothing but professional, even when dealing with the frustration of an offense that couldn't stay healthy or consistent last season. The Dolphins front office, led by Chris Greer, has already made it clear publicly that they have no intention of trading Hill. That's not just posturing. That's a recognition that players of Hill's caliber don't grow on trees. You can't just go out and replace that kind of production and impact in free agency or through the draft when you have a generational talent. You build around them, you don't ship them off for spare parts. If Pittsburgh or any other team really wants to acquire Tyreek Hill, they need to come to the table with an offer that reflects his true value. We're talking about multiple first-round picks, proven young talent, or a combination of both. This isn't a fire sale situation where Miami needs to dump salary at any cost. This is a franchise that believes it can compete for championships with Hill as a centerpiece of their offense. The reality is that Tyreek Hill makes everyone around him better. His mere presence on the field creates opportunities for other players that simply wouldn't exist otherwise. Trading him for anything less than premium value would be organizational malpractice of the highest order. Dolphins fans deserve better than seeing their favorite players shipped off in lopsided deals that help other teams more than their own. So no, Brent Sobleski, this trade proposal isn't happening. Not now, not ever. Tyreek Hill is staying right here in Miami where he belongs, continuing to terrorize AFC's defenses and giving Dolphins fans the kind of electric playmaker they've been waiting decades to see in aqua and orange. What do you think about this ridiculous trade proposal? Are you as fired up as I am about the disrespect being shown to our guy Tyreek Hill? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know if you think there's any scenario where Miami should even consider moving their superstar receiver. And if you enjoyed this breakdown of why this trade makes absolutely no sense, smash that like button. And let's keep the conversation going about what's really best for our beloved Dolphins.